All right, I want to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021 Special Town Board meeting. And we're doing this by video conferencing. And present for this meeting, myself, Bill O'Neill, the Deputy Supervisor and Council Member, and Christine Kane, Council Member, and Jacob Testa, Council Member. So the three of us will be, I will designate it as a quorum for purposes of our meeting tonight. It constitutes 3 out of 5. The other 2 board members, Robert McKeon, the supervisor, and Bill Hamill, a council member, have recused themselves from this particular meeting because of the conflict with the principal subject matter of the agenda. So the 3 of us will hold the meeting as is. So Matt, when you're ready, I'll start the meeting.
I think we're going. I think you said we're live streaming, so.
Okay, so I will open the board meeting for February 3rd, 2021 and declare a quorum so we can do business, myself and Christine Kane and Jacob Testa. The first order of business at this special meeting is a pledge of allegiance to the flag. So I would ask everyone to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the
republic
for which
for
it
which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you, Deanna, for joining us. I want to make an announcement that there will be no announcements unless any of the council members have any tonight, because it is just a special board meeting. Does anybody have an announcement? Chris Shaw or Christine or Jacob?
No, nothing for me.
Okay, then we'll pass on announcements. The public comment period. I want to announce that we did get a writing from Linda Keeling, who asked that her comments be reported at this under the public comments. Her first comment had to do with a recusal by the supervisor, and that has been done. So that comment is no longer applicable. Her second comment, I do want to mention this for the applicants tonight to our principal proposed easement agenda. They explain at page 7E, Oak Tree Escrow. Is there a certain money amount required of the applicant and what does it cover? Is the applicant responsible for installing oak trees, or is Winnicke or the town responsible for this? Are other varying tree species included as part of this escrow? So that is a concern to Linda Keeling concerning the proposed conservation easement, which is the part of the discussion for tonight's meeting. But I do want to mention that although it's on the agenda, the proposed easements for the preserve at Lakeskill, we will not tonight be voting on that resolution for the reason that the town has proposed that the applicant for the Landskill Preserve make a presentation tonight concerning their proposal. And that after the town board tonight considers the application and the proposal, then we will at a subsequent meeting have a resolution to vote yes or no for that resolution. So that's the change in the agenda for tonight. The other thing that Linda Keeling mentioned was on page 16, number 15, the ecological inventory report concerning this conservation easement was done in October of 2011. And that is now nearly 10 years old. The flora and fauna could have changed substantially and varies with the seasons. I believe a more recent report should be done before finalizing this agreement. So that's the second substantive comment by Linda Keeling under public comments tonight. The others that she mentioned has to do with the notice of the meeting and the continuing concern that our video conferencing meetings, the virtual meetings, do not allow for the public to enter in to the discussion. So that's it for public comment. Is there anybody else who has any public comment to make? I
No.
would say no. Then we'll go ahead with the meeting. Now, on the agenda tonight, there are two items. The first is a discussion resolution to appoint a temporary building inspector, part-time building inspector for the town of Red Hook. The second has to do with a proposed easement for the preserve at Lakeskill. So what I would propose, council members, is that we move up first to the proposed easements to allow the applicant to make their presentation. And then after that, we will have a discussion on the resolution to appoint the temporary part-time building inspector. If that's agreeable with everybody, I would ask you, Matt, to hook up the applicants for the preserve at Lakeskill to make their presentation tonight to the town board.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
All right.
yep.
Good evening, everyone. This is John Wagner. I'm the attorney for the Preserve at Lakeskill, which is the current owner of the subdivision property. The subdivision has been pending for several years, and the two easements that we're talking about tonight are the last matter is really to wrap up for the subdivision to be signed by the planning board. There are two easements in question. One is a grant of permanent drainage easements, which is, I'm trying to see, is that the one you have there now? Well, let me just summarize to them. It's a grant of permanent drainage easements. The purpose of those easements is to allow for stormwater runoff out on Feller Newmark Road to be collected onto the subject property. There will be catchment basins installed that will be actually on the applicant's property. And the purpose of the first of these two drainage easements is to allow the town highway department to enter upon the property and to maintain that catchment structure, which will be, as I say, collecting water off of the public road, Feller Newmark Road. The second easement, which we call a swale easement, is an extension backward from the structure easement, which is the first of these two drainage easements. The purpose of the swale easement was created in response to comments from the town attorney about there was some concern that water may actually spill over beyond this catchment structure and extend further back onto the applicant's property. And the town wanted to ensure that there would be no question that they have the right to discharge that stormwater backward onto the property. So there is a swale area that is to be created as part of the subdivision improvements that will extend from the catchment structure northward along the easterly side of the access road to a certain point. And that swale area basically provides that, the easement provides that the town will have rights to discharge water over that swale area where it will eventually recharge into the ground. So that's what the two drainage easements are. The third easement that we're talking about tonight is a conservation easement that is to be given by the landowner to the Winnicke Land Trust. This the subdivision property is over 100 acres all told, and over 88 acres of that property, which is basically the whole northern area of the property, is to be placed under a conservation easement and will be held and managed by the Winnicke Land Trust. This document, this deed of conservation easement, has been vigorously negotiated by myself and the council, John Lyons, representing the Winnicke Land Trust over several years. It's been a work of magnum proportions, and it basically grants the land trust very extensive rights on the property in order to maintain the property in its current natural state for the most part. You should know that the Winnicke Land Trust determined years ago that there were, values to this property being preserved in terms of the extensive wetland and habitat areas on the property. There's also significant forest on the property that the land trust has deemed worthy of preservation and management. So it's a very long document. It basically lays out all the rights of the land trust and the landowner, that whatever rights the landowner has reserved. Just to summarize it, it preserves the areas that are of significance that the land trust would like to see preserved, and it also limits the ability of the subdivider and the subsequent lot owners to go into those areas and to do any kind of interference with the preservation of those properties. To address one of the comments that you read out at the outset of the meeting, well, I'll address both of them. The first had to do with oak tree escrow. The oak tree escrow arrangement is totally unrelated to the easements that are being considered tonight. That arises out of a condition of the subdivision approval for the preserve at Lakes Kill. It was specifically designed to account for the fact that there is an oak tree that's on the southerly side of Feller Newmark Road across from the proposed entrance road for the subdivision that may or may not be compromised when the retaining wall structure along the southerly line of Feller Newmark Road is installed. We don't know that it will, but if we put the wall in and it ends up cutting a root or something and endangers that tree, the purpose of the oak tree escrow is to provide $3,900 set aside for monitoring the health of that tree after we have completed the retaining wall improvements along the road. And if it turns out that it has damaged the tree to such an extent that the tree must be removed, to allow for the removal of that tree. So it's basically a security blanket to make sure that that tree is watched, and if it becomes some kind of a hazard, that it is removed. So as I say, that's not related to the conservation easement. With regard to the underpinnings of the conservation easement, you should know that not only did the land trust designate this property as being worthy of placement into a conservation easement, but it also performed an extensive ecological study of the property, which was documented fully in basically a current conditions report, which I think was included in the materials with your agenda packet. The report that I saw in the agenda today has actually recently been updated. As of December 31st, the land trust personnel went out there on the property and took another look. Specifically, they wanted to see that conditions had not significantly changed over the last 3 or 4 years. And they also wanted to verify that an existing abandoned house on the property had been removed, which it has, and also to verify that a couple of dump sites on the property have been cleaned up, which they have been. So I did receive a new report, an updated report, which my client will be asked to acknowledge as confirming the current conditions on the site. The purpose of this report is to provide a baseline going forward so that as the land trust goes out and periodically inspects the property, if they see any changes in the baseline report, they will notice them by comparing the condition they observe to what is set forth in the baseline report. And if appropriate, they can take enforcement action with respect to any changes. So as I say, there's a totally revamped report, which I have just received within the last week. It'll probably be finalized within the next 3 or 4 days. I have a couple of issues I want to discuss with Land Trust Council to make sure that it is totally accurate as of today. And then once that is resolved and the town board approves the acceptance of this easement, it can then be, we can have a formal, what he refers to as a closing, where we would actually, everybody would sign up the easement, and the easement would ultimately be recorded simultaneously with the filing of the signed subdivision plat. So that's pretty much where we are with that document. The reason, by the way, the town board is interested in this conservation easement, even though it runs from the landowner to the Winnicke Land Trust, is that the town attorney has negotiated a third-party right of enforcement in the town. The town has separate rights to enforce the preservation conditions in the conservation easement, even if the land trust does not. So that's why you're basically, I don't want to speak for your town attorney, but I think the primary reason we're here with this today is so that the town can accept that third-party enforcement right under the conservation easement.
John, I'll let you continue, but just so that we hit that issue, in our planning subdivision law, we have a provision for conservation easements. And in that provision, there is a reference to a requirement that an easement is granted, that third-party enforcement right be granted to the town. So that's the purpose of this easement, not only being given to a conservancy, but a third-party enforcement right being offered to the town.
Right. Okay. And as I say, the provisions are in there. I think council has had an opportunity to review them. I think we're all in agreement on the language. So it's just on for the board's acceptance at this point. That's basically a summary of everything we have before you. If you have any questions, I can answer them, or I have the project engineer on the line as well. Anything technical in nature, he can probably answer those as well.
Thank you for addressing those two issues raised by a citizen. Christine, do you have any comments, or Jacob after that?
I don't. I am pretty familiar with the project since I was on the planning board during most of the review for the project. So I'm interested to, or I'm happy to see the conservation easement. It is, as was pointed out, very extensive and covers a lot of ground and does clearly state what the conservation purposes, the conservation values of the property are. That's the underpinning of the value of the conservation easement, and why Winnicke is accepting the easement to hold it. They are in agreement that there are important conservation values to the property. So it took a long time, but I'm glad to see that we are, at the process, the point in the process where we have this document.
Thank you. Jacob?
I don't have any questions at this time, no.
Okay.
Thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you very much, John. I don't think we have any further questions, but we appreciate your presentation.
Well, then I've done my job. Thank you.
Huh?
If you have no questions, I've done my job.
Yeah, and as I said before, we're not going to be voting on this tonight
Mhm.
because we want to consider what you've said, and we have to give it time to soak in. And then we'll have at a subsequent meeting a decision on the resolution. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you.
Good night.
So
night.
as part of the agenda, we have completed agenda item number 2. So we'll go back to agenda item number 1, which is a resolution to appoint a temporary part-time building inspector for the town of Red Hook on an emergency basis. So the resolution has been prepared. Do we have a number, Deanna?
11.
Number 11. I should comment that as the town should know, as the citizens should know, that we've had a vacancy in our part-time building inspector's position. And the supervisor's office has had conversations with Sam Harkins, who's well-known in the village of Red Hook, in the town of Red Hook, former planning board member, former building inspector in the village, etc. He's well acquainted with the community. He's well regarded, and he has agreed that he has the time to fulfill a temporary role as a building inspector for the town of Red Hook until we have time to arrange a permanent position. And so with that in mind, this resolution has been prepared so that we can get the process going and have the appointment made. So is there any discussion, Christine or Jacob?
Well, I think we just want to clarify that Sam Harkins does have the appropriate training and qualifications for the position. He's currently, I believe, acting in the same role on a part-time basis for some other communities nearby.
Right.
And the reason that we're doing this, people who may have watched last week might have noticed that we went through a similar process appointing somebody that was intended to be on a more permanent basis. That individual is no longer able to fill the role for the town at this time. So that's the reason we're doing this again this week.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion, then does anyone want to move the resolution number? Did you say 11, Deanna? 11, I guess, right?
Yes,
11?
yes.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, second, I'll second it. Is there any discussion, Christine or Jacob, on the resolution? Further
No.
discussion?
No.
Then I'll ask for a vote on the resolution by roll call. I will vote yay, yes. Jacob
Aye.
and Christine?
Aye.
Aye. So I think, Deanna, you can record that that resolution passes by a vote of 3-0, with a quorum present for action by the town board tonight. And if you would take the further action to record that and send it on its way. Now, is there anything else on the agenda as far as the public comment period goes? Again, we had that earlier on. There is no further public comment at the end of our meeting. And the proposed easements preserve at Landskill will be carried over to a subsequent date for decision. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring to the attention of the town board?
Nope.
Then I would propose that we, Deanna, did you have anything else?
No, thanks.
Then I would propose that we close the meeting and thank everybody for attending. Is there a vote to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
And I'll vote yay. So the meeting is canceled, is concluded. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating under the circumstances and at a special night. And we'll meet again next Tuesday for our regular
All right.
February business meeting.